49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast. I'm Al Sacco with Brian Rennick and Zain Nakvi. Guys, you feeling any better? You in a better mood? You still angry? What's everybody feeling like?
I don't know, man. Like we got the Chiefs this week, and hey, look, Trent Williams coming back. We just found that out right before the show. I think that's great. They got a chance, but on the flip side, Mooney may not play, so your best DB arguably is probably not going to be playing in this game when you need him. So have they figured out the offensive problems in 4 days? I don't know. I really hope so, but it's to me it's looking kind of bleak when it comes to Kansas City and trying to beat them, because if the Niners were healthy and fully healthy, I'd say that this is much more of a fair matchup. But Kansas City is just so good, and Mahomes is so good. He's on pace for over 50 touchdowns without Tyreek Hill, which has been ridiculous. So all of that stuff kind of encapsulates how I feel, and I'm not overly optimistic, but you never know. It's the NFL, right?
Zane still sounds sad. Brian, happy, mad.
Here's the thing. A couple things, right? We'll see if the math is mathing here, right? 94 red throwbacks. Aaron Andrews on the sidelines. Home underdogs, or just underdogs. All three of those things typically mean a Niner victory. So all three of those things happening on the same day, along with the 2012 team coming back to celebrate we're celebrating an NFC championship. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but regardless. And Harbaugh will be in the building. So, man, the vibes are immaculate. So I'm feeling pretty good. Do I think that they're going to win this game? Honestly, you're going to have to wait till the end of the show, right? We're going to have our predictions. But in terms of vibes, can't ask for anything better right now.
All right, so Brian's feeling good. Zane seems sad. You guys know I'm a miserable prick all the time anyway. So I still will maintain to do that. But, hey, I went on John Chapman's show yesterday, 49ers Rush.
Awesome.
What a great guy John is. Awesome dude. And he's like very optimistic, and he's got a very positive vibe to him. And again, I am a miserable prick. So we had this like really good dynamic of him being positive and me just tearing everything down. But it was good. I thought it was a really good show. If our listeners haven't listened to it, should check it out. 49ers Rush, John Chapman, with me, El Sacco. Anyway, awesome. Guys. All right. So lot of stuff to get to here. We just recorded a couple days ago, but there's some stuff we got to do. And I think I want to start out with, I wanted to hit on what you said about the 2012 team coming back and look back to that era. Talk about a couple things with the Niners too, in terms of the sloppy play we were talking about. But I got to start out, because this could turn into a really big story, is Tim Kawakami tweeted just a little while ago that he thinks the Niners, there's an increasing sense that the 49ers are leading contenders, maybe the lead contenders to land Christian McCaffrey. Now, we know that Kyle really likes to have a running back that he can use in all sort of different ways. That's why they paid for Jerick McKinnon, right? They really wanted McKinnon to come in. And when McKinnon got hurt, Kyle said that it was huge for him because he had planned his offense around him. And he's kind of been looking for that guy. So I'm not surprised here that they have interest in him. I personally, while McCaffrey's a dynamic player, I'm on team never pay a running back. It's kind of the way I feel about it. And if you look at McCaffrey, he had 326 touches in 1,965 scrimmage yards in 2018. 2019, 403 total touches, 2,392 scrimmage yards. I mean, the guy was just, an absolute beast, obviously. But that kind of volume, he gets hurt, right? In the next year, he misses 13 games. 2021, he's hurt for 10 games. And this year, he's been healthy so far. But he's got a hefty contract. We'll see what they would have to give up for him. Could it help in the interim? Sure. And it'd be exciting to have him. But I don't know, guys. How do you feel about this? Is this another injured player? Do we want to give up that kind of capital for a running back? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, it depends on the capital, because the contract, as bloated and gross as it looks on paper, it's actually not that bad. McCaffrey's scheduled to make 11.8 in 2023 and 2024 and 12 million in 2025. None of that is guaranteed. So that means that whatever team gets him, be it the 49ers or the Rams, who it still feels likely that that's the team. I sure hope not, but it is what it is. it really is about just setting up for a restructure, right? Because again, none of that is guaranteed. In fact, whatever team trades for him, I believe he only counts about $1 million on the cap for 2022. So the contract isn't that bad. The question is, what is the compensation that you're going to have to give up? And are you going to get arguably, I would say, bamboozled by trying to keep him away from a division rival? Possibly. But you look at what the 49ers have in terms of what they can offer, and you're looking at a first round pick, but not until 2024. And then you're looking at second round picks. Well, if you give up your 2023 second round pick, now you're not picking until the third round. So I don't know. It's hard to justify that kind of draft capital for a player that is on the older end of the running back spectrum and a player that is as oft injured as he has. We're already the most injured team in the NFL right now, according to Fox's, I can't remember what they called their metric, most banged up or something like that. The 49ers were the 32nd ranked team, meaning the most. So if it's not a second round pick or a first round pick, or if it's not at the very least the 2023 second round pick, I could be on board because I do think that he would add quite the element to this offense. But the question becomes, how many games are you going to get out of him?
I mean, as long as they don't trade any fifth round picks, right? That's all.
Just right. Those are the money picks.
Those are the money picks. Those are the money picks. So Christian McCaffrey didn't miss a game in his first 3 seasons. He played all 16 in his first 3 seasons. The last 3 seasons, well, last 2 full, and then the partial here, he has played a total of 16 games. So yeah, the injury bug has caught up to him a little bit. I mean, he's only 26 years old now. Like he's not an old dude. He's only 26.
Yeah, it's running back years though. It's running
back
years.
A lot of miles on those 26-year-old legs.
It depends on how you use them, right? So he is the threat in Carolina. There's nothing else there, and it's been like that for basically since he's been in the league. They have
DJ Moore shade, right? Huh? DJ Moore shade.
I mean, DJ Moore's a good player, but like he's not a guy that will carry your offense, right? That's a nice piece to have, but DJ Moore's not like a 1A receiver. Like he's a good receiver, but I mean, like he's not a guy that you would expect would get touches over Christian McCaffrey. So
they're paying him like this.
I mean, that's another story, right? that's a David Tepper and Matt Rule thing, right? Like that's them. But would I love it if he came here? That would be fantastic, because the more blue chip players you have, the better your team's going to be. But it's not that simple. It's not black and white like that. There's always a gray area, and that gray area to me, it's 2 things. It's the injury history, which that does worry me at a position that does get injured, at a position where the Niners are constantly thin. Like it seems like every year their running back number 1 goes down early, and it's a bunch of other guys filling in. And the second thing is okay, awesome, you got him. How is Kyle going to use him if you get him? Are we going to see Christian McCaffrey being a decoy on 4th and 2 while Trent Williams takes a handoff from the backfield or something? Like, are we gonna see something ridiculous like that? Or are you actually give him the ball and actually going to feature him like you should feature a blue chip player? And that to me is like, if you don't have a spot for him, if you don't have a use for him, don't make the trade. But if you're just going to trade for him and he's going to be a decoy while you continue throwing passes to Charlie Warren. By the way, this is where my mind is at. So yes, I'm still sad. But while you're still throwing passes to Charlie Warner and Ray McLeod and Christian McCaffrey's a decoy, like there's no use of having him and giving up the capital. If you get him, you have to feature him. And if they feature him, you have an offense with Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle,
Elijah Mitchell.
You are not beating that offense if they're run correctly and if they can stay healthy.
Go ahead, Al.
I was gonna say I can't wait to have McCaffrey and Elijah Moore back there, and on 4th and 1 to pitch the ball to Tevin Coleman. Can't wait.
Exactly.
Elijah Mitchell. Elijah
Moore,
by the way, I heard could be on the trade block as well. I would be interested in him as a player. That's the second-year wide receiver for the New York Jets.
Yeah.
I was specifically on McCaffrey, and then we can move on. I was talking to my buddy, shout out Chris Kelly, the best chiropractor in the Sacramento area. And my question is, would the 49ers, or specifically Kyle Shanahan, look at what the Rams did last year, where they went all in to get that Super Bowl victory and go, you know what, this is the move we need to make, and make that move for Christian McCaffrey. I think they could. I think they could. Somebody just commented, do you guys hear about Brian Burns wanting to be traded here? He is posting Jimmy G highlights on his Instagram. Brian Burns also posted a photo of a Ram. He also posted a photo of a Jaguar. Brian Burns is just trying to get up out of Carolina because he recognizes the sinking ship. Here's the thing about Brian Burns. As awesome as that would be, he is up for a contract extension just like Nick Bosa. And I just don't think that they can justify spending, upwards of $50 to $60 million on 2 edge players. Just seems like a little bit too much. Drake Jackson, 21 years old. Let's go ahead and develop him. He's cheap for a while, 2nd round pick. So yeah, as Brad Graham of the SF Niners is a huge Brian Burns fan, and I am as well. I just don't think that would work out.
Agree. He'd be great to have, but I don't think it's somebody that they're going to be able to target for the reasons you said. All right, moving on. So they are honoring the 2012 NFC Championship team this weekend with Jim Harbaugh and everybody else. And I agree with you, Brian. I don't know about honoring a NFC Championship team. When Jed York says we only hang Super Bowl banners, but whatever. It's fun, I guess, for the fans. It's good to have him back. And it got stirred up some debate and some talking. And listen, I personally, you got to honor your history. I love talking about the history of the team. And I think it's fun to compare and contrast. I mean, look, the Niners have had 7 coaches since 2000, last 20 years or whatever. They've all been horrible except Shanahan and Harbaugh. So let's look at the 2 good ones and talk about it. I don't see anything wrong with that. But where my mind goes with this when I hear about Harbaugh, I just remember, there were some dark years, man. And we get into 2011. The 2011 team is one of my favorite, not just Niners teams, sports teams of all time, because you had a team that everybody thought was going to be terrible. Nobody thought that team was going to be good. And you had Alex Smith, who was a complete, was going to be a cast off. And they asked him the year before, do you think you're going to return? And he laughed. And then Harbaugh comes in his introductory press conference and he's like, I really like Alex Smith. And that was sort of the start of Alex Smith turning into a very good quarterback for the last half of his career, a Pro Bowl quarterback for the last half of his career. And that was such a memorable season, man. They just kept winning and winning and winning. They go 13-3. And the Saints playoff game was one of the best ever, right? Just so much fun to see Smith come back and have his moment and Vernon Davis have his moment. And then they lose in the NFC Championship game. And I remember I was in a bar with all my friends, right? All Giants fans, right? Because I live in New York.
Sure,
New York. Niners fan there. And I just remember sitting I'm in the corner by this small TV, just watching the fumble happen and the field goal happen and being like, don't cry. Don't cry. I could have cried. I didn't cry because I'm a man, damn it. I didn't cry. But it was, let me tell you what, it was awful. But I remember that year in 2012, 2013, as much as they all ended in heartbreak, those were fun years. They were a good team. Everybody knew they were a good team, and it translated on the field. They won 13 games and 11 games and 12 games. They were really, really good. They were really, really physical. Those were really fun years. So it's good to look back on that. Harbaugh was crazy. It all kind of went to hell in that 4th season that, with the issues with Jed and everything. But look, man, I look back on it fondly, and it's fun to remember guys like Willis and Gore and Smith and Harbaugh and everybody else. So it's that part of it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember where I was when news broke that the 49ers were signing Jim Harbaugh. I was in a parking lot at a Chick-fil-A in the Sacramento area. And I remember just being ecstatic, just absolutely ecstatic, because I knew that meant good things for my squad. And I never expected his first season, for them to make it all the way to the NFC Championship game. And it feels like the debate, like you talked about, Al, the debate that has raged a little bit on 49ers Twitter at the very least is essentially kind of who did a more impressive job, Jim Harbaugh, who inherited a roster that was already pretty full of talented but underachieving players, or Kyle Shanahan, who inherited a roster of garbage and then built it up in 2 years into a Super Bowl contender. And I mean, 6 in one hand, one half dozen in the other, right? Like I don't know what's more impressive, nor do I really care. They both did what they were brought here to do. And the only difference is Harbaugh's personality is a little bit more difficult to deal with. And so
crazy. Call it like it is.
Yeah, he is. And so, very much like a meter, he burns bright, but then he burns out, right? And that happened at San Diego, that happened at Stanford, and it happened in San Francisco. Now, granted, I think his shtick plays better in college, which is why he's still at Michigan and probably still could have stayed at Stanford if Jed didn't come calling. But I'm not here to. It doesn't matter to me. Like it doesn't. I don't care. I don't care who is the better head coach, right? Harbaugh has 3 NFC Championship game appearances and 1 Super Bowl appearance. Shanahan has 2 NFC Championship game appearances and 1 Super Bowl appearance. They both lost the one big game that they've been in. So in all reality, they're even. They're tied. They are what they are, right? Until Shanahan wins a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I'm not interested in that debate, right? I'm not interested in dividing the fan base to Harbaugh or Shanahan, because I tweeted out earlier this week, and I genuinely believe this, with the frustration that is building amongst this fan base, just because of the slow start, the season-ending injury to Trey, the offensive, whatever you want to call it, doldrums, right? If the 49ers are struggling either at halftime, or if it's evident that, this game is going to end in a KC victory, I genuinely think there's a non-zero chance that you're going to start hearing some Harbaugh chants in that crowd with him in the stadium. And I think that is going to make Harbaugh's life. I genuinely do.
I remember it. So I was at the game. I was at his last game with the Niners, and subsequently, I guess, in the NFL until further notice. And they won, but everybody was literally just sad. Like after the game, nobody was happy. Like I will never forget that they won. And then, Frank Gore took his lap around the field and everything. And that happened to be Patrick Willis's last game too. And that happened to be Justin Smith's last game too. And that happened to be, like several other guys that just didn't come back. Like I think Upati was let go after that. And I think that Anthony Davis was let go. So all these guys were gone, right? It was the end of an era. And I think that everybody was sad because like there's a lot of younger Niner fans that don't remember like the early 2000s, right? Or when Steve Young got hurt, basically. Like that's kind of when it all started. And he had a couple of years of Garcia.
Friggin' Aeneas Williams.
I hate that guy. Friggin' Aeneas Williams. So when Steve Young went down, like they were terrible the rest of that season. And then they ended up getting Garcia. They were terrible for 2000. And then 2001 and 2002, they made the playoffs, right? And, they lost to Green Bay the first year in Green Bay, freaking Favre. And they lost, to eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers the next year. But then after that, Mariucci was fired, and you've got Dennis Erickson, who was awful, one of the worst head coaching hires ever until Tom Sula. Then Mike Nolan, who was also awful. Then he was fired in favor of Mike Singletary, who was, a motivator and a rah-rah guy. Tom Sula coached in the middle for one game, and then Harbaugh came. And like it was just this revolving door of coaches. And there was no hope anywhere. The Niners, they were an underachieving team. But look, like, Patrick Willis and Frank Gore were really the only blue chip players on those teams. Like they signed Justin Smith, and you could argue that he was that as well. So they had 3 blue chip players.
Bowman,
Alden Smith.
Staley.
Bowman, no.
Yeah.
Alden Smith was not drafted yet. Remember that Alden Smith. I'm talking.
You're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
I'm talking about what Harbaugh inherited,
Sorry.
right? Not what he built, right? So they had very few blue chip players. So the idea that like he inherited this great roster, I mean, that's not true. Like the corners, like they had to go sign Carlos Rogers. Terrell Brown was nothing. Goldson was nothing before that. They signed Whitner. Like they made a bunch of moves when he got there, right? That's the reality of it. They got Ted Ginn, who was a nothing player, and then he just became like the league's best punt returner for like 2 years, right? So to me, like I don't care about this debate either. I think it's fun to compare eras, but the only thing that kind of irks me is that I don't understand what Kyle's really done to earn so much loyalty from the fan base for them to say that, like, oh, the third winningest coach in franchise history is worse than what Kyle has produced. So that's the one thing here that I'm like, okay, are you saying this because he's the coach now, or are you saying this because you actually believe it? Because to me, like, Kyle hasn't done anything to show that he's better than Harbaugh. Maybe equal, right? I think that we can agree that they're probably equal, but he hasn't done anything to show that he's actually better than him. Jim Harbaugh accomplished more than Kyle's in 3 years. Accomplished more than Kyle's accomplished here in 6 years. Let me read you a stat here that I have here. And mind you, salary has no indication on, like, it's no reflection on how good a person should be, but just something very interesting. So these are the top 25. This came off a list of the top 25 highest paid coaches in U.S. sports right now, with the exception of Sean Payton, who's retired now. But on this list, Bill Belichick's number 1. Number 2 is Pete Carroll. Sean Payton would have been number 3 if he was still coaching. Andy Reid's number 4. Greg Popovich number 5. Mike Tomlin number 6. Nick Saban number 7. Jimbo Fisher number 8. These college coaches just raking it in, right? Damn.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
it's a racket.
The 9th highest paid coach, well, 8th now that Popovich is gone, that Sean Payton's gone. 8th highest paid head coach in U.S. sports is Kyle Shanahan. He is the only.
Really?
Yes. He is paid over $9 million.
Highest paid coach in U.S. sports.
Kyle Shanahan is paid more than Steve Kerr. Can you like when I saw this, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'll message you guys offline and I'll send you the link to what I have here.
I definitely want to see that. I didn't know that.
And he is the only coach on this list that has a losing record. The only coach, and then after Kyle, it's Steve Kerr, and Dabo Swinney, and then Frank Reich. Also, Frank Reich, I don't know why he's on that list, but yeah. So that to me is like, okay, like, you know, he's the only coach, number 1, that has a losing record on that list. And him and Frank Reich are the only coaches on that list that have never won a championship.
Yeah, Frank Reich.
So it's just, that's the only thing, right? I don't care about it. It's fun to debate. It's cool, but it's like, come on, like, let's at least like do justice to what Harbaugh did here. And I realize that a lot of people may not remember, but it's the guy was a crazy person, but he was a damn good head coach.
Yeah, and I think to the debate stuff, I think it's fine. I know if you're somewhere in like Twitter where it's just, like a snake pit and everything else, but like it's good. I think it's great to compare the two. Like if you're gonna have like a realistic, smart conversation about it, like there's anything wrong with that. The good traits, the bad traits, what they were good at, what they weren't, stuff like that. I think it's great. And yeah, Shanahan's 42 and 45 as a head coach.
Correct. And
Harbaugh was 44, 19 and 1 in 4 years. And Harbaugh's 5-3 in the playoffs. Shanahan's 4-2. So that's with that. But, I always thought with Harbaugh, it wasn't that they got rid of him, because if it did because I heard whispers too, the locker room was kind of sick of the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't that they replaced him. It's what they did after they replaced him, or after they moved on, I should say. It's that they went to Tom Sula instead of maybe saying, listen, we have a good thing going. Let's promote Fangio, keep everything intact and kind of keep going. They bring in Tom Sula because of whatever, and then that's a 1-year thing. And then I don't have to go through the history. We all know what happened. But I think, that was kind of it. It was like what happened after.
Do you remember the exodus of players after Harbaugh was fired? Like there's several players that just left that were just like, I'm not playing for Tom Sula. And Willis was one of them.
I wrote an article about it. It was like March 13th or something like that. It was like one of the worst days in like 49ers history.
Yeah.
Like Willis retires and like just everything bad that could have happened. Like it was absolutely crazy. So
yeah, it was. Also I want to really quickly give Kyle his flowers because he deserves credit for him, Adam Peters, Martin Mayhew, John Lynch. Like they were just left for dead. And they turned this team around in 2 years. So they absolutely like that's where I see like he gets and should deserve that loyalty from the fan base. Like he turned around this program and he was instrumental in turning this program around. Like him more so than any other person, more so than Adam Peters, more so than Martin Mayhew, more so than Lynch, more so than Jimmy. Like Kyle is the biggest reason why they are turned around, right? So he absolutely deserves credit for that.
I just think it's hilarious because the Niners are all about drama. I feel like there's always drama with this team.
Yeah.
There's not a more comical time for Harbaugh in this team to come in than right now, because this is the first time I think in 5.5 years people are starting to kind of get pissy with Shanahan.
Yeah,
and like it's just the perfect time. And like I think you said it, I think it was Brian. Brian, you said
storm,
it. Like, if it's bad at halftime, like it's gonna be hilarious. So sit back and just enjoy it, because this fan base is nuts. And like if it's 35 to whatever, like it was the first time they met, in the 2018
when Jimmy got hurt.
With the game Jimmy got hurt. Yeah, a lot of bad memories with the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Super Bowl. I don't think of that. All right, let me bring up one more awful thing because that's what I do, and then we'll get into the what are we doing? The preview. Yeah, that's what I'm
preview.
All right, so I was looking. We were talking about the Niners' sloppy play, so I was looking through some stats because that's also what I do. They have a 10.8% drop percentage this year as a team, according to Pro Football Reference. The next closest team are the Jets and the Browns at 8.6. The Niners have dropped 19 passes on 179 attempts. They've dropped 11% of Jimmy's throws, 10% of Lance's throws in the small time. And I know there's other factors. There's ball placement, there's weather and things like that. But that's overall really bad. And that's kind of been consistent for the last 5 years or whatever it's been. The two biggest culprits this season, John Jennings has 4 drops and 20 attempts. Debo has 7 drops this year. And I have a real hard time saying anything about Debo because they probably wouldn't have won 7 games if it wasn't for him last year. But the one sort of knock on his game, he has 293 targets in his career. He's dropped 29 passes. So it's like 10%. That's a pretty big drop rate. And again, you don't always know the factors. And again, I'm not knocking Debo because the guy puts the team on his back. But it is a thing with them in terms of the sloppiness. I was shocked when I saw that. That was kind of crazy in terms of the stat.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not like they've got Josh Allen throwing laser beams to them, right? It's Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, how are you dropping Jimmy Garoppolo passes? That's what doesn't make sense to me. The one thing that Jimmy does, Jimmy throws a really pretty ball. Like it's a very catchable ball. Now, granted, his accuracy at times can struggle. And I think now my question is, how are drops measured, right? Like, for example, that play with Debo in the red zone, right? Where Debo's coming on a slant, Jimmy throws behind him. He gets his hand back, tips the ball, doesn't get intercepted, right? But it falls incomplete. Is that a drop? I don't know. That's the one question that I have in terms of how you're measuring drops, because sometimes if you're measuring it like that, well, then you're doing a disservice to the wide receiver who's trying to make a tremendous play and just can't at that point. I don't really count that as a drop, but I mean, that was part of the conversation when it came to the extension for Debo, right? That was one of the things you look at, like, oh man, he's got a pretty high drop percentage. Is that somebody that you want to spend that kind of money on? And ultimately, I think his impact is so much greater than just his dropped passes. I think he can overcome those. But if Debo is going to be dropping passes, then you can't have guys like Jennings or McLeod or Kittle dropping passes, right? That's the one thing that I appreciate about Ayuk is pretty sure-handed. I haven't seen him drop many. I don't know if you have the stats up, Al, or if you could find them.
I'll see if I can find them.
But I mean, ultimately, what do you do? Like, stay after practice and hit the jugs machine? Like, I imagine these guys know what they need to do. So why does it keep happening? And that's one of the questions that I don't know that we have an answer to. But that is one of the things, obviously, that needs to get cleaned up with this offense if they plan on doing anything for the season and into the postseason.
Injuries and drops. And I don't know if there's anything to be said about like being in rhythm and having the ball come your way and being ready for the ball. Like I thought that when they played in Carolina, Debo had a couple plays where he, just a couple of bad drops over there, that it was just him kind of nervous because he was playing in front of his family and friends and all that stuff. But that being said, I'm going to ask you guys, like, do you think there's anything to like, well, Werner only gets the ball thrown his way like a couple times a game, or Ray only gets the ball thrown his way like once every 2 games, for example, right? And they're just not getting used to getting the ball, so they drop it. I'm not making excuses, but I mean, is there something to that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. And Ayuk has 11 drops in his career. He averages about 5% drop rate, which is
so half of what Debo is.
Did you guys see Zain, you brought up the injuries, and I got to make sure. Was it Vish who had Jaquiski Tart on his?
It was Vish,
yeah. Vish, yeah.
My best friend, Jaquiski Tart. And he mentioned on the podcast that Vish asked him about injuries, which I thought was a great question. And he mentioned that when he was a short time he was with the Eagles, that they still had high intensity practices, but they didn't hit as much in training camp. And he said they hit a lot, and he, basically that they're pretty beat up in training camp. And I thought that was pretty eye opening. That's kind of the first. Well, didn't Trent Taylor say something like that too when he left? Yeah. He alluded to something. So like, I know we've been piling on Kyle this week, but the injuries don't stop, maybe it does have something to do with being too physical. I mean, you have a couple players say it now. I thought that was really interesting, but listeners, check that out. Vish, I don't know Vish's last name. I'm sorry if you guys do.
Kumaran.
Okay, but check him out. It was a great interview. It was a great question that he asked him. So
yeah, I mean, drops are going to happen. The question is, again, is it going to be consistent, or can we see it change? And good news, Zane, Tyler Croft has been a full participant in practice, so maybe those throws that go to Charlie Warner will go to Tyler Croft now. But that's
nothing more than I want to see. I want to see Tyler Croft targeted 8 times on the weekend. Give him all the targets.
Yes.
Trade for Christian McCaffrey and give the ball to Tyler Croft.
This is the Tyler Croft game.
That's what we want to see.
Well, guys, do we want to look ahead to this matchup on Sunday?
Sure.
We got about 15 minutes left here. The Chiefs come in with the highest scoring offense in the NFL, averaging 29.8 points per game. Zayn, as you said earlier, Patrick Mahomes is on pace for another incredible season, 4,800 plus yards, 50 touchdowns. The one thing that this team isn't doing as much is throwing deep without Tyreek, right? They brought in Marquez Valdes-Scantling from Green Bay. He's kind of their deep threat right now. But it doesn't seem like this team has missed a beat with Tyreek Hill gone. And so my question is, we'll start with the defensive side of the ball. What are the 49ers going to need to do to slow down this high-scoring Kansas City offense?
Pass rush. That's
finish. Finish the pass rush too. Get them down on the ground.
And they've had, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it, or it's just coincidence, but the 3 mobile QBs they've played against, they've lost to. And certainly not, that they killed the defense or anything, but they did lose those games. Maybe just, a play here and there, extending their legs. But yeah, they have to finish, like you said, Zane. Like they can't, because Mahomes is going to run out of it and make a play. So you got to get there and you got to finish. To me, that's especially if Ward doesn't play, Mooney Ward, and it doesn't really look that way. You're without your 2 starting corners. We don't know what we're going to get from Brett.
I will say I did see right before we came on a gentleman that I actually just started following. It looks like he works for 1140, which is a local AM station in Sacramento, covers the 49ers. He was in the locker room today, and he said that he heard Charvarius Ward say in the locker room that he's going to practice tomorrow. So,
okay, that would be great. Which tomorrow?
So that would be great. So fingers crossed for that. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I think ultimately finishing is really going to be the key to the game. I tweeted this out earlier. Mahomes has been blitzed on 49% of his dropbacks this season, which is second highest in the NFL. 74 times he's been blitzed on 151 dropbacks, and that's resulted in a 24.6% pressure rate. So he is pressured on 1 of every 4 dropbacks that he has, but and that's the 8th highest. That's actually the same rate that Matthew Stafford has. But the difference is he's only been sacked 11 times, which is the 12th lowest. To put that in perspective,
right,
Matthew Stafford has been pressured on 24.6% of his dropbacks, and that's resulted in 22 sacks. So it really is about finishing, because I still remember Robert Saleh telling his defensive lineman, hey, don't let that little duck run fool you, right? Like Mahomes, when he's jogging, looks like he is in the most pain you've ever seen anyone with his feet or his hips or whatever, right? He runs like he's 65 years old, right? But he still, don't be fooled, right? He gets out, he extends plays, he just gets out of pressure. So ultimately, that I think is the biggest key to the game. Is Bosa will be back. He's been a full participant in practice. Honestly, it's just contain on the outside, right? Try and get as much pressure as you can up the gut. If you've got a rush from the outside, you got to have someone that is there to contain. Otherwise, he will break the pocket, and he will either A, extend the play, or B, scramble for 4 or 5 yards and then live to see another day. So finishing is going to be the biggest key. And then the other thing is Travis Kelce is getting 25% of the target share in this offense right now, which I saw that and I was like, oh, that's got to be pretty close to the top in the league. And it's actually not. Again, for reference, Cooper Kupp has a target percentage of 31%. And the only other one that's higher than that is CeeDee Lamb, but I don't think he's played as much. Anyway, Travis Kelce is the straw that stirs the drink in this offense right now. He has 7 touchdowns and he has 50 receptions, or no, sorry, he has 42 receptions on 50 targets. They've got to figure out a way to either bracket him or double him, right? Which can be difficult because they flex him all over the formation. But the focus has got to be on Travis Kelce, because this team can't run the ball, doesn't run the ball, whatever you want to say. It's not going to be very similar to that Atlanta game where Atlanta just ran all over them. Kansas City can't run the ball. Or chooses not to. I don't know, but you can really focus on your pass defense at that point. So I'm interested to see what kind of game plan D'Amico cooks up for Patrick and this offense.
Yeah, and I think flipping over to the offensive side, like they similar to what they were. I mean, Atlanta's run defense was not very good, but the idea of them not being able to run the ball, that theme probably carries over this week, because Kansas City's rush defense is number 4 in the league right now. So I don't know if you're going to be able to run on them. Trent Williams coming back is huge. I think that's a really big addition, because he's the best left tackle in the game. But you're probably going to have to win by throwing it. And Kansas City's bottom 10 in the league in pass defense. So they've given up the most touchdowns in the league. So I think that for this, it's going to be those little quick screens, bubble screens, those little quick hitting passes that Jimmy loves to throw, like Kyle loves to call, supplementing the run plays, getting them away from the defensive line. Like it's kind of funny and kind of interesting to me to see like such a stark difference for a really good team between their run defense and pass defense. You would think that those guys run stopping, be able to get some pressure and be able to get to the quarterback. But I think that's how they're going to win this game, if they are going to win it, is by short, quick passes that act as runs and keeping the ball away from them. If this turns into a shootout, the Niners are not going to win. Like they don't have the firepower to keep up. This team has trouble scoring 20 points in a game.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to control the clock, control the momentum. They're like, Jimmy cannot throw any interceptions. This has to be a perfect game from him. Like, you can't turn the ball over. I don't know what they're going to do on defense to stop Kelce. Like, I don't know what matchup they have there. Like, if you put Hufanga on him, Jimmy Ward is probably going to play, guys. He's going to play with the club. But I don't know.
And Hufanga's working his way through concussion protocol. It looks like he will be able to play on Sunday.
Yep. So I don't know what the matchup is going to be there, but they target, like you said, they target him early and often. You know where the ball's going. And it's for them to win, a lot's going to have to go right. And I don't know if they can pull it off. I really don't.
Well, it's this Chiefs team. They started out 3-4 last year. Obviously, they had some different pieces, but this year they're 4-2. But if Herbert doesn't throw an interception in the end zone, and Josh McDaniels, they might be 2-4. Like, the Chiefs haven't quite been the Chiefs yet. And that game against the Bills last week was a heavyweight fight. I know they're coming off a loss, but it was definitely, maybe it took a lot out of them. I think the Niners have more of a chance here than maybe we think. You hear the Chiefs and you think they're going to steamroll. Haven't totally done that yet. They did against the Bucs. They put up 41 on them. And then I think they put up 44 in week 1 against the Cardinals, I think. But overall, they lost to the Colts with only 17 points. It could be a more winnable game than maybe we're giving it credit for. But like you guys said, the defense has to show up and be the defense. And the Niners offense has to score around 20 points, obviously. Going to have to. But did you guys know it's National Tight End Day this week?
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
NFL Communications put out a thing I thought was interesting. The 2 tight ends with the highest yards per game in history are Travis Kelce and the artist formerly known as George Kittle, when he used to get yards in games. But no, Kittle, for considering he's averaged like 20 yards a game for the last 9 games, he's still at 65.8, I think it was, for his career. So, Kittle's put up historic numbers. And I think he's coming back around again. I'm kidding with the artist formerly known as. I think he's going to start really being involved in this offense again. I think last week's 80 some odd yards or whatever it was, I think was just the tip of the iceberg. I can see him kind of breaking out again. So
I want to see Tyler Kroft getting the ball.
Tyler Kroft game, baby.
Give me Tyler
Kroft.
Tyler Kroft. We don't need Kittle. Tyler Kroft. Absolutely. Ross Dwelly, Tyler Kroft, Charlie Warner. You don't need your $60 million all-pro type.
I'm just kidding. I love Kittle.
Give it to the other guys. I think the game is maybe, if the Niners play their game, it's more winnable than maybe people are giving it credit for. And if they do come out of it with this win, I mean, just the narrative is going to change completely, right? I mean, all of a sudden, this was as negative as a week as I can remember in the Shanahan era. Just, I don't know, just people are coming out of the woodwork or people are frustrated or whatever, but I just don't ever remember. Usually when you attack Kyle, people are like, whoa, what are you doing? This week, I put out whatever it was I said something negative, and I don't always read my replies in Twitter, but I was like, let me go through because people are going to probably destroy me. Almost no one did. Like everybody was like, yeah, like we're pissed. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. So it's really interesting to see kind of where it is. So it's going to go. It's funny. I can't wait. I think it's just, again, this is entertainment. This is so entertaining. You have Harbaugh in the building. You have a really tough Chiefs team to play against. Just sit back and see where we are at halftime, because it could just be, again, reality TV at its best. But maybe the Niners come out with a win here, and I don't know. Nobody cares Jim's there. Well, we'll see.
Well, we need predictions, guys. Result predictions, score predictions.
Drama.
I'm gonna start
drama.
I predict drama.
I want Zain. We're gonna start with Zain. All right, Zain.
It also I'm saying this in jest. I'm not serious about this, but is Kyle the worst coach in the building on Sunday? Like Andy Reid on the other side? Like,
oh no!
I want you to tweet that. I want you to tweet that.
Oh no!
I might if they lose. I think
fantastic.
But I think that, man. So
watch
really
the world
hard.
burn, Zane. Just do it.
Which is just throw that grenade into 49ers Twitter, right? And just oh man. So I don't think they can do it, guys. I know I tweeted out earlier this week, just watch them win, and everything is right. Everything will be rosy. If they win, we're going to be on the biggest high that we've had since the playoffs last year. If they win, right? Like it's going to be like such a big lifting sort of game if they do win. But I just think the injuries are too much. Like Trent Williams coming back, like after several weeks off. I mean, needing time to kind of get acclimated. Mooney's banged up. Jimmy Ward is banged up. They're going to hopefully play through those injuries. Bosa looks like he's going to play. So you do have guys coming back, but I don't think the offense has enough to keep up. Like all Kansas City has to do is score 21 points. Basically, that's it. Because the Niners can't score 20 unless Kansas City turns the ball over. So I'm going to say, God, I hate saying this, but I'm going to say Kansas City wins, and it'll be the number one offense in the league, right? So 29-17. They're going to get safety because Jimmy's going to step out of bounds again in the end zone, and then yeah.
Oh man, I think Charlie Warner is going to score a touchdown, and Tevin Coleman's going to score a touchdown, and the Niners are going to break 20 points. That's the Al Sacco prediction, but they're still going to lose. I think, I could see like maybe 31-21, something like that, 31-20. That's what I think. I still think the defense is banged up enough where maybe they're not going to quite be the defense.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, guys, 94 throwbacks, right? Aaron Andrews on the sideline, which means Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have one of his better games because he's going to want that post-game interview, right? and maybe we get another feels great baby, like 2.0. That would be phenomenal, right? And Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers record when they are underdogs. They are incredibly good. The Chiefs came off a difficult loss against the Bills, a physical loss. They are likely without one of their starting corners like the 49ers. Rashad Fenton still hasn't practiced for them this week. And that is 3 days in a row. And we are recording this Thursday. We still don't have the practice participation for the 49ers. But again, according to a source in the locker room, Mooney Ward will be practicing tomorrow. That would be go a long way towards being able to slow down this Kansas City offense. They come in averaging 29.8 points per game, which is best in the league. 49ers still only giving up 14.8 points per game, right? They haven't faced, I mean, Atlanta's the best offense that they've faced thus far. And they held that Atlanta offense to 21 points. I think they have the capability of at the very least slowing this Chiefs offense down. And I think this is a game where we see Kyle Shanahan get in his bag, not only because there's been some Kyle slander this week, but because this is a game that I can almost guarantee he is desperate to win against this team. And so I think he's going to pull out some stops. Hey, you know what I would love to see? A Juwan Jennings wide receiver pass, right? Juwan Jennings went to Tennessee as a quarterback recruit. Let's turn him into Mohamed Sanu 2.0, right? Let's give him a perfect passer rating. And I think that the defense can slow them down enough and the offense can get enough on the board. So I am going to say the 49ers win this game. And I'm going to say they win it 27-24.
Wow.
And they win on the Juwan Jennings touchdown pass to Tyler Kroft.
Exactly. To Tyler Kroft. Yeah. As time expires.
As time expires, yeah.
So then it would be 23. Then it would be what? 26.
26.
Yeah. No, I'll say 27-24. The 49ers figure out a way to pull it out, and they have one more game before the bye, and then they get to come back healthy. One thing that we need to look for, Jason Verrett has been a full participant in practice all week. Could he play on Sunday? It's possible, depending on, I think, what happens with Mooney Ward. I don't think Verrett will play next week against the Rams. That's on turf. And then we'll come back after the bye, back to the home field. So I think they pull it out. You guys, you pessimists, you don't have faith in them, but I think they do it. I think they pull out a victory against these Kansas City Chiefs. And I think we look back on this season as this game being a turning point for not only the team, but the offense as well.
Well, then I look forward to doing the next intro to the next pod.
That's right.
Show. Yes.
Yeah, we'll be back Sunday evening. Zain will be doing our intro because that will be a victory pod, and everything will be right in the world. And we won't be talking about Jim Harbaugh anymore.
Unlikely. I think we will. Yeah, definitely.
After that, I feel like at the halftime it's going to be really interesting. So I'm sure we'll mention it, but hopefully we'll mention it in a Niners win. And we can
also, really quick before we get out of here, Al, is this the worst ALCS ever? Yankees and Astros? Ew.
Yeah, 17 strikeouts yesterday.
Ew. Yeah, it's gross.
I don't feel good about this at all. I don't feel good about it. Yankees bullpen is beat up. I hate the Astros, man. Hate them.
Me too.
Hate them. Last night was not fun, but hey, maybe we'll bounce back tonight. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys, we'll be back Sunday to break it all down again. For Brian and Zain, I'm Al.
Peace.